Tracy Metcalfe. How are you?
I am great.
We are we are we are Skyping, and thank you for agreeing to make this video with me on
Hey,
XJWS1. You know,
that
you
is right.
you kind of look like Jesus.
Well, I get that all the time.
We've known each other since what, 2006?
Yeah.
We met on the recovery board,
Yep.
and a couple years ago you did something pretty spectacular.
hmm
Want to tell us about it?
I wrote a letter asking a bunch of questions, and I presented it to the group, and I had a whole bunch of people from the group saying that they wanted to participate. They wanted to make copies and send them out, and I put my name and address and email on the letter, and I'd say probably about 40 people joined in, and that letter went all over the country. And what happened was, I didn't really hear a lot of responses at first. A couple of them trickled in, but then I started getting responses left and right. People were saying, "Well, those are interesting questions." Some people were like, "Well, I have the exact same questions that I'm asking them, and they're not wanting to answer me." And apparently, the Watchtower Society was getting pelted left and right with people calling them up, like elders, I'm guessing, calling them up and asking them questions, saying, "How do we answer this guy's questions?" Because they didn't really know how to do it. And so, next thing I know, I have elders showing up at my door because they had my address, and they were like, "Hey, we want to meet and talk to you and answer all your questions." I'm like, "Okay, great." So we decided to meet at my shop, and for about a year, a little over a year, they came down there every week, and we would sit down and talk for, sometimes we talked for, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes we talked for about an hour, whatever time permitted. And, we went through topic after topic, and every topic we went through, I would let them try to explain to me how they were teaching it. And whenever they would explain something, I would jump on it. And I would tell them, "Okay, well, what about this? What about that?" For instance, the 607 date, they jumped in and said this and that, and I already read the magazines trying to explain it. So I just presented the proof to them. Actually had the printouts for them and said, "Okay, well, this is what this says. This is what that says. This is historical proof. You can't refute it. You can try, but you can't." And eventually they caved and said, "Okay, well, the dates don't really matter, And so they would leave, and then they'd come back, and we'd talk about something else. But we went from one doctrine to the next, and that went on for about a year. And after that year was up, the elder that was coming down, he showed up one day in plain clothes, like normal clothes. And he comes in, he goes, "Yeah, man," he says, "I decided that, he says, I've been kind of checking up on the stuff we've been talking about." He says, "I kind of did my own research on it." He says, he says, I'm leaving." He says, "It's," he says, "No," he says, I can kind of see where you're coming from." Totally blew me away. I was just like, I called you first.
Yeah.
It totally blew me away. Couldn't believe it. That was just out of left field. I didn't expect it. And then all that stuff kind of died down. There's probably, I had a bunch of responses trickling in. There's close to 70 people that left. But then everything kind of died out. I'm like, okay, well, that's a pretty good deal. About 70 people left. Well,
Yeah, that's really, really good.
next thing I know, I got a bunch of young people showing up. There was actually about 5 of them that came in. And I thought they wanted to talk to me about window tinting because that's what I do, tint windows. And they came in and they said, "Hey, ain't you that guy that wrote the letter?" I'm like, "Oh, are you Jehovah's Witnesses?" And they said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Yeah, I'm the guy," and all of a sudden they started asking me questions. So, they were like, "Well, we got a few friends, that want to kind of hang out and talk, and is it okay if we come back and meet with you, and we want to talk and ask you some questions, about those doctrines and stuff." I said, "Yeah, man, come on back." I expected maybe 10 people. 32 people show up. I was like, okay.
Now all of these people were young people?
Young people.
Okay.
They were all young people. So I was like, right on.
Approximately what ages, if you don't mind me asking?
The youngest one was 16. The oldest one was probably about 26.
Okay.
So that's about the age group. But yeah, we talked about stuff, kind of went through stuff with them, and then I just told them, "Hey, go do your own research. If you guys got questions, come back." A few of them came back and said, "Well, hey, we've been talking to a few more people. Can we have another meeting because they want to hear what you told us the first time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Well, I didn't prepare any speech. I'm just kind of going, with what I know. So the second one, there's about 117 people that showed up.
Woo.
Which totally blew me away. We couldn't meet where we met the first time because there was elders prowling around, looking for whoever's car was in the parking lot. They were trying to write numbers down and stuff. But we met somewhere else. Talked to them for probably about 3 hours.
And what kind of topics were you guys talking about? The same thing in the letter, or a couple different stuff?
Just different doctrines, one doctrine after another. And then, I kind of went into depth and detail on each one. And then towards the end, I was just like, "Hey, do your own research." I gave them sites to check out. And I said, "Hey, just, unbiased research. That's the best way." So left with that. And then the same thing happened. I didn't really expect another meeting after that one, but then another one came along and they were like, "Hey, we want to meet again. There's, some older people that want to meet." So I'm like, "Okay, cool." So we just met recently, and same thing happened. Only talked for about an hour though this time.
Okay.
Kind of the same thing though. Went through the doctrines. I kind of wrote down in a post what we talked about.
Right.
That was more along the lines of common sense. It's like, hey, look at the faithful and discreet slave. They said they were supposedly appointed in 1919, but they didn't even know who they were. That's kind of a dead giveaway. And then I just pointed out other stuff. It's all control, mind control, fear tactics.
So,
and yeah, that's kind of the way it went. And then at the end, I'm like, "Well, do your own research. If you guys got any more questions, you can come back and ask me. But it's kind of your job to take it from here and run with it." So that's kind of how it went down.
Right on, man. That's cool. Why do you do this?
Why do I do this?
Yeah.
I do this because families getting torn apart, people being victimized. If it wasn't for that, if it was just a religion where you could go to and learn, even if they taught stuff that wasn't true, I wouldn't really care. But they suck you in, and then they don't let you leave. And the only way to leave is if they punish you for leaving.
You leave with no dignity.
They're going to punish you to leave.
Yeah. There's no way to leave with dignity.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why I do what I do. That's it.
Right on. And how did it? Well, how did it all start? How did it all start with you for you for the activism? How did that start? Working with Jehovah's Witnesses or
Well, it all started with the letter.
all right.
The letter. Um, that was kind of an idea. It was kind of a whimsical thing, you know. It was like, hey, you know.
By the way, you want to tell people where you can find the letter?
Well, you can find it on Barbara Anderson's site. I don't know the.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also on Facebook on the Dear Watchtower Bible and Track page fan page.
What's that?
The Dear Watchtower. I'll put a link on the bottom of the page
Oh yeah.
on the video
Yeah.
when it's done. And I'll try to.
There too. There's a few places you can find it.
Cool.
But you know what stemmed that letter is that I was standing at a bus stop and I actually ran into two elders that I've known for 20 plus years. They happened to come across, they were doing street witnessing or whatever, hopping from bus stop to bus stop, and they seen me and they're like, oh hey, and they came up and gave me a hug and everything. And they're like, hey, you know, you want to come back to a meeting? And I'm like, hey, no. You know? And they're like, well, why not? And I'm like, well, I don't believe in that stuff anymore. You know? And they said, well, maybe if we sat down and talked, you know, we could change your mind. I'm like, I'll come talk to you. You know? So that's kind of how it went. I went and talked to, there was three of them there. I knew two of them. I didn't know the third one. I went and talked to them, and I just blew them out of the water. You know, I was going from point to point, asking them all kinds of questions, kind of running through things, and they didn't know how to answer any of my questions. Remember, I called you on that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
That's when I lived with my brother.
Right.
I called that one too, and they didn't know how to answer them.
I don't know what the hell though. You always run into them. Like Seattle must be swarming with Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, they're out all over the place. Bus stop, street witnessing. They're pretty active. So that's where I got the idea for the letter, because it's like, well, if they couldn't answer that, and they, you know, we're going to look into it deeper, maybe I should write a letter, send it out, where, you know, that'll happen on a more, you know, wider, broad scope sort of thing. So that's kind of where it all started.
So you sent in the letters. I don't know if you mentioned this. You sent one to the Watchtower, official office, and then you sent the rest of them. Everybody sent out to different congregations around the United States, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Right on. Cool beans.
Yeah. I talked to a Watchtower representative.
I remember you were telling me
I
that.
asked him that. Remember the Tree of Life question? I asked him that one, and he goes, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Elaborate on the Tree of Life question again.
That was pretty much, if you read in Genesis, it talks about, you know, everybody knows the story. Adam and Eve, they eat from the tree. All of a sudden, they know they're naked. You know, they know right from wrong, which they would have never known unless they ate from that tree. So they didn't have that ability until they ate from that tree, right?
Right.
Then it says, well, we gotta, you know, and I'm paraphrasing here in my language, we gotta get them out of here before they eat from the tree of life, and they gain that ability to live forever. So they didn't have that ability yet. So if they didn't have that ability to live forever yet, because they didn't eat from that tree, how can it be claimed that sin is what caused them to, you know,
die?
Exactly. Exactly. And I asked them that question, and they were like, they tried to break it down and everything, and they, well, we don't know that one. And I'm like, okay, well, when you figure it out, give me a call. So, yeah, that was it.
That's pretty good, man. And regarding you know, some people feel it's a waste of time talking to them.
Right.
And I know me and you have kind of different approaches, but I
Right.
still respect your approach because it does work. but what do you say to that, to the claim that it's a waste of time? I mean, obviously there's some people that they'll never listen, but
People think it's a waste of time because they don't want to put the effort in. They don't want to. They don't want to do the research. They don't want to study. Whatever. I have no problem with that. But don't tell me it's a waste of time because it's my free time that I'm using to do this. I'm not making any money off of any of this.
mm-hmm.
And it's working. So if I can get anybody, and out of these 142 people, I don't know how many of them are going to leave.
Right.
I have no idea. But they're thinking about it. And to me, that's not a waste of time.
Right.
So for, the naysayers, whatever, what are you guys doing? You're sitting behind your keyboard. Well, it's a waste of time. Okay, well, what? You got a better idea?
Yeah.
Throw it out there. Let's hear it. Until then, I wouldn't say I wouldn't put any idea out. I would say any idea that you have that you want to put time into that could have a chance of success. That's not a waste of time. And that's it. That's bottom line for me.
Right on. Yeah, I think also a lot of the I think a lot of people have their doubts. They just are too scared to do anything about it. And there has to be some kind of voice. If whether it's your letter, whether if it's Gregorio's movie with Truth Be Told, whether it's people being there for them when they're exiting, or like we are in the recovery board and other really good boards out there on Facebook and other places, whether it's AWA, I think the resources being there for them is awesome.
Yep. And see, a few years ago, it wasn't like that. Our group, the Ex-Jehovah 3 recovery group, what we have 300 people.
When we started, yeah.
We were happy when we reached 300. It was like, yeah, look at us now. It's getting bigger. And it's going to keep growing. And it's the way it is. People eventually are going to start questioning stuff. And they're going to start asking questions. They're going to be like, hey, this doesn't sound right. And the way they got it set up now is if you do that, you're going to get punished. So, I don't know. I think it's a, changing of the guard that's coming. And I can definitely see it going on up here. It's probably going on around the rest of the country. Who knows? But there's definitely a lot of people that are joining the group for whatever reason. And, ride the wave.
And it's funny because the witnesses like to paint, like you're doing this not, like you said, not to gain anything. You're just want to be there for people that have questions, and they kind of paint apostates as being, angry, really pissed off.
Right.
And I know you and I have something in common where we have parents that are. I have a mother that's a witness. You have your parents that are witnesses.
Right.
And we're fortunate where they kind of break the rules and still talk to us. But I think there's so many of us that we don't hate them. We're not angry. Some people are angry and they're justifiably angry.
Justifiably.
But behind that anger, when you're there for them, and when they're coming out and they have questions and we're there, it's because you care. I mean, you wouldn't be wasting your time talking to 142 young people if you didn't give a crap about them.
Exactly. And that's so I guess a little annoying when people say, "Oh, he's just making that up." No, I'm not making it up. That's the way it is. And there's always going to be criticism, no matter what angle you go at. There's going to be people that just don't believe you, and I understand that coming from where we came from, because we were told something and it turned out not to be true. So I can understand that totally. But it is what it is. I put it out there. Hopefully people will feed off of it. Maybe it'll move them to do something. Maybe they'll write their own letter. Maybe they'll reach out to a congregation or something. Who knows what kind of movement will start. But the bottom line is, people are starting to ask questions, and if there's a few of us out there that are willing to answer those questions for them, then it's going to be huge.
Right. And they gotta know, and I'm glad I'm talking to you about this, because if there is anybody out there watching this, we don't hate you guys. we might hate some of the policies that hurt other people, and we hate the damage that has been done to other people, but we don't hate individuals in there. It's the opposite. If you're a good person, because there are probably a lot of good people in there.
Well, yeah.
And there's good and bad people and everything.
We were in there.
Yeah, I think sometimes.
That's the thing, that's the point I tried to make. A thread that I posted months ago. It was like, there's good people in there that we just need to reach, and I got a lot of static from it. Oh, well, no, they're all they're agreeing to those teachings, so they're all bad. Da, da, da. No, they're not. They're agreeing to those teachings because that's the way they were taught to think. They were taught to think that way. You got to break through that, and you got to show them, hey, you've been trained to think this way. You need to step aside from that and think this way. And then sometimes you reach them, sometimes they run back. And it's just it's a matter of trying to get them to think outside of the thought process that's been instilled in their brains. Whenever you bring something up, the defense mechanism kicks in automatically. You and I both know that, because we used to debate with them. What they were going to say before they even said it. We used to call each other, hey, I bet you post this, and we'd sit back and laugh because the guy would post exactly what we said he would.
Is that
a robotic response? That's the way they were trained. So the trick is to get them outside of that and to get them to think differently. And if you can do that, you can be very effective.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think sharing ideas is never a bad thing. And if they have the right to share an idea with you, if they're coming to you trying to share an idea, then hey man, why don't you listen to my idea, and then let's talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've
had witnesses come to me and try to break me out of my train of thought. Well, hey, you're just seeing it wrong. And then we talk about stuff, and it's like, and then I kick it in on them. Oh, what about this? What about that? And when they walked away, they were like, well, hey, I'll check it out. I never seen them again, but got them thinking.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think for me I think my I've gotten to a place where I'm like the people who want out will look for the research, you know what I mean? And I think your letter campaign was good, because it wasn't like you were knocking on their door. You sent out a letter with questions. That's it. And the questions were thought-provoking enough for them to question. So, I mean, we all have our ways, but I think you've done a lot of good, man. That's awesome. There's some people out there that are scared. They don't know any better.
Right.
And once they snap out of it, boom.